Today we are going to talk about signal phrases. But first, I want to talk about our current success. I want to give you all credit for using actual quotations from Thoreau's work, for choosing quotes that are meaningful, both in civil disobedience and in your essays, and tying those quotations into your arguments. If you don't feel like this is a big deal, just realize that even US presidents struggle to appropriately use quotations.
Which may seem like unpresidential behaviour were it not for the fact that a surprising number of presidents have done the exact same thing.
I came upon this quote by Abraham Lincoln. I am not bound to win, but I'm bound to be true.
The principles so eloquently stated by Abraham Lincoln, quote, "You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong."
Mr. Lincoln once said that you can fool all of the people some of the time. And you can fool some of the people all of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all the time.
Lincoln never said any of those things.
Now, we do have some room for improvement, and that improvement should come in the form of signal phrases, which of course leads us to the question, what are signal phrases? A signal phrase is a word, phrase, or even a sentence that signals the reader that a direct quote, paraphrase, or summary is about to follow. Signal phrases work with quotation marks and in-text citations to provide clarity to academic writing. Basically, what we need to do is bench dropped quotations. Dropped quotations do not work well in academic writing, even if quotation marks and/or in-text citations are around. So, what is a dropped quotation?
Well, maybe I'm not the norm. I'm not camera friendly. I don't wear clothes that fit me.
In that video, who is Chris Farley quoting every time he makes those air quotes? Those are dropped quotations. Dropped quotations are quotations with no lead-ins or introductions. A dropped quote can disrupt essay coherency, making the essay seem choppy. The reader is left to figure out the link between the point the writer is trying to make and the quotation he or she has inserted. Here is the difference between a dropped quotation and a quotation using a signal phrase. Note the inclusion of the phrase, according to Dory Greenspan, author of Baking from My Home to Yours. So how do we use signal phrases? Signal phrases can occur before or after a quotation, paraphrase, or summary. For example, consider how a signal phrase provides context in both of these examples. Pay special attention to the verbs used in these signal phrases. Verbs are the workhorses of signal phrasing. Word choice matters, especially in the case of the verbs you choose to use. Papers with many in-text citations can become tedious to read if every quotation is introduced in the same manner.
Well, 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 what is this contraption I do declare?
It's my BlackBerry, Michael. I'm trying to get updates on the company.
Who's Michael? I'm Caleb Crawdad, I do declare.
You don't have to keep saying I do declare. Anytime you say something, it means you're declaring.
That is the way Southern people talk.
And what designing woman are you basing that on?
Delta Burke, I do declare.
The verb declare is just one of a number of verbs you have to choose from. Suggests and states are two verbs that are commonly overused in academic writing. Here are a number of signal phrase verbs that you have at your disposal. Don't worry about copying them down, as you will be provided with a handout that lists them. Another important aspect of signal phrasing is to be sure the words you choose fit the context of the source as well as your argument. Word choice is basically mind control. You can shape the response of your reader based on the verb you choose in your signal phrasing. So, let's try to apply what we've learned. I will show you some brief clips, and as a class, we will run through some fill in the blanks for signal phrase verbs. You'll see what I'm talking about after the first clip.
About the Grand Canyon, I imagine also, which is a remarkable place, and it has fossils. And the fossils in the Grand Canyon are found in layers. There is not a single place in the Grand Canyon where the fossils of one type of animal cross over into the fossils of another. In other words, when there was a big flood on the earth, you would expect drowning animals to swim up to a higher level. Not any one of them did.
In his debate with Ken Ham, Bill Nye blank that fossils in the Grand Canyon disprove the idea of a global flood. Choose a verb from the verb bank that you think works well here. Here are a few examples that show how the connotations of words can tie into your argument. If we choose to use the word argues, it highlights the context of this information coming from a debate. If we choose to use the word asserts, there is a more positive connotation. We might want to choose asserts if we are writing in support of what the science guy is saying. If we choose the word claims, there is more room for doubt. We might want to choose claims if we are writing in opposition to what the science guy is saying. Here's another clip that may be familiar.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. I have a message for President Snow. You can torture us and bomb us and burn our districts to the ground. But do you see that? Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
In Mockingjay Part 1, Katniss blank, if we burn, you burn with us. I think this is an appropriate quotation to use declares, as Katniss's statement is definitely a strong declaration.
What is life? Is it nothing more than the endless search for a cutie mark? And what is a cutie mark but a constant reminder that we're all only one bugbear attack away from oblivion? And what of the poor gator, flank forever blank, destined to an existential swim down the river of life to an unknowable destiny?
This character Gummy blank. What about the poor gator? Flank forever blank, destined for an existential swim down the river of life to an unknowable destiny? An interesting choice here, because we can see that it is an inner monologue. It is what Gummy thinks. We have to be careful when we use think, however, since most of the time we cannot know what other people are thinking, sometimes even if they write it down. Let's use one last example. This time we will use a quote from Civil Disobedience, and try using a signal phrase after the quotation. I could not help being struck with the foolishness of that institution which treated me as if I were mere flesh and blood and bones, to be locked up, blank Thoreau in Civil Disobedience. Since this quotation is from a book, an effective and natural choice is to use rights. We just have to remember not to use the same verb over and over just because it works. And that brings us to how we will use signal phrases in this class going forward. First, we are going to add signal phrases to our writing toolkit as we continue to develop our use of accurate quoting to prevent things like libel and plagiarism. You do not want to make up quotations or use quotations without appropriate citation, but these sort of issues do happen, even to professional writers.
George Clooney is speaking out about an interview with Hello Magazine that he says never happened. Clooney writes, Hello Magazine has printed an exclusive interview with me that has been widely picked up and reprinted. Outlets like Vanity Fair, Marie Claire, The Sun, and the Evening Standard have all printed my exclusive interview and credited Hello Magazine. The problem is that I have not given an interview to Hello Magazine, and the quotes attributed to me are not accurate.
Using signal phrases will help provide context and limit those occurrences. Second, when we are doing peer revisions, there will be an expectation that you will start to review each other's signal phrasing. We're going to start doing this in our peer revisions for the Thoreau essays. And third, we are working our way toward using multiple sources in one essay. Signal phrases will help maintain clarity in our writing when we get there. So, what have you gained from this lesson? When effectively used, signal phrases provide a seamless transition from a writer's thoughts to a source's thoughts, and provide details about the source that highlight the credibility and expertise of both the source and the writer. In short, you will seem wicked smart.
Hey, how's it going? How are you?
Good, how you doing?
You want it?
What class did you say that was?
History. Yeah.
Just history? It must have been a survey course then, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was surveys.
Right.
You should check it out. It's a good course. It's be a good class. Oh.
How'd you like that course?
You know, frankly, I found the class, rather elementary.
Elementary.
Yeah.
You know, I don't doubt that it was.
Yeah.
I remember that class. It was just between recess and lunch.
Clark, why don't you go away?
Why don't you relax?
Why don't you just go away?
I'm just having fun with my new friend, that's all.
Wait, we could have a problem?
No, there's no problem here. I was just hoping you might give me some insight into the evolution of the market economy in the southern colonies. My contention is that prior to the Revolutionary War, the economic modalities, especially in the southern colonies, could most aptly be characterized as agrarian pre-capital.
All right, of course that's your
Hang on a
contention.
second.
You're a first-year grad student. You just got finished reading some Marxian historian, Pete Garrison probably. You're gonna be convinced of that till next month when you get to James Lemon. Then you're gonna be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's gonna last until next year. You're gonna be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, talking about, the pre-revolutionary utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
Well, as a matter of fact, I won't, because Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social...
Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Were you gonna plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter?